Once again, it's on. It's my main man behind the trigger, Steve. Mother, Kim. Talk to me, Steve.
We did it first. We motivate even the greats. Oh, great to be back with you, Coach. How you doing?
Oh, hey, Steve, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, man. I was happy to really get you on. I had Johnny Rice. I was going to call the show, come on the show as well, but he's actually sparring at Mayweather's gym, so I gotta wait till he finishes with that.
Yeah. I'm always good to fill in for old Jay Rice getting his work done. You know, no problem. Always listening as always, and glad to fit the bill, man. I hope you and your audience are having a great Tuesday.
Yeah, man. I hope so too, man. I think everybody's having a good Tuesday, man. Having a great Tuesday. Steve, I'm glad you're here because I want to ask you a couple of questions as it relates to now that Errol Spence has officially activated his rematch clause with Crawford. He's not getting the fight at 154. Some people are saying that Crawford gave his word he'll fight him at 154, and that's just simply not true. It's coming from the same people. Now, he did mention that, hey, 147 was hard for me to make. Maybe we can do it there at 154 or whatever. But, at the end of the day, he's not violating anything that comes to his contract. He's honoring the rematch. He said he want to have it at 147. Prior to the fight, we all knew, Steve, that the winner would be able to dictate where the rematch would take place at, which weight class. So do you see any problem with that?
No, I really don't. And, Coach, when we had Terence on the show about 3 weeks ago, yeah. I asked him, since you won the rematch, I said, Errol gets to activate the rematch if he wants, but you get to choose the weight class, right? And he says, yes, that is correct. But he said something that was very key. He said, but I call the shots now. And I got the sense that was 5 years of frustration talking like, you know what? You guys dictated to me for 5 years, pulled it away, started playing games, and I had to agree to your terms. And I said, okay. And there's an old saying, to the winner go the spoils. What I do not understand about these people criticizing Terence Crawford is, did both sides agree to the deal or not?
Yeah.
Okay? The deal is the deal. The contract is the contract. By the way, if Errol Spence would have won the fight, guess what? These same people would not be saying, well, Errol should be doing what's right for Terence. They wouldn't be. You know it, and I know it. The game is the game. Yeah. The game is the game. And by the way, with Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny, it ain't no fun when the rabbit's got the gun. Really interesting how these things. Now it's about fair play and equity. Interesting.
It's very interesting, Steve. And not only that, but some of these same guys, I'm hearing some of these same guys who've been on dismersification campaigns for years and, haven't even paid their bets that they, the debts that they owe from the bet that they made on the Crawford Spence fight. But they have the nerve to say, man, he ain't keeping his word. Well, that's one. Man, he ain't got no integrity. That's two. Man, he ain't really got no character. He ain't got no integrity to keep his word. Now, note now, this is coming from a group of people who make a living using clickbait in order to get clicks and views for ad revenue, and they have built up hate groups against certain black fighters. These are black content creators that hate certain black fighters that are not a part of their agenda. So, because he wouldn't give them an interview. So, this is the thing, right? These guys do all of this stuff here, and then now it's like, like you said, there's no fun when the rabbit got the gun. And so, it's a bunch of Elmer Fudds that's upset that the wascally rabbit has the gun. Yeah.
The thing that gets me is, at what point is a contract not a contract? Last I checked, both Errol Spence and Terence Bud Crawford signed an agreement. There's nothing wrong with what Bud Crawford is doing. He's living to the letter of the law of the agreement. And by the way, he earned that right by winning the fight. What I found interesting was, and me and you have talked about this in private discussions, Coach, by delaying the fight the way Errol Spence and PBC did, they actually aged out their own fighter. I've always felt that the best chance for Errol to win this fight was closer to 2018 more than 2023. They allowed Bud Crawford to grow into being a legitimate welterweight. And at the same time, he grew out of that weight in terms of being comfortable at it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why Crawford's taking any type of heat when, given the fact for 5 years he was told, this is the letter of the law, we're not playing games, this is what you're going to get. And by the way, these are the same people that always say, yeah, we're not playing checkers, we're playing chess. Now, all of a sudden, they don't want to be Bobby Fischer. Wow, the irony. Cue Alanis Morissette.
Hey, but you know what I like to say over here, Steve? If they did not have a double standard, they wouldn't have a standard at all. You know, these I got a couple of super chats I need to read, but these guys.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, these guys, you know, like you know, you say when is a contract not a contract? A contract is not a contract when it comes to dealing with a fighter that you don't like. So these, I call them old. They like to move the goalposts all the time. You know, when you know, they remind me of you know, I was listening to the song Linus and Lucy. I picked my kids up from school. I was listening to Linus and Lucy, and I thought about Linus and Lucy from you know, from Charlie Brown. And every time Lucy will hold, I think it was Lucy. She'll hold the football down, and she'll say, "All right, Chuck, come on, you can kick the field goal this time." He say, "No, Lucy. Every time I get ready to kick the ball, you gotta move it." "Oh, come on, Chuck. I promise you, that was last time. I'm not gonna do it this time." Chuck keep falling for the old banana in the tailpipe, running to the football to kick the ball that Lucy holding. Lucy pull the ball away, and Chuck do a somersault in the air, land on his back. This is what I'm seeing that's going on as it relates to these guys who still having a meltdown. I haven't seen anything like this, Steve. The fight it's been almost 2 months. It's been like 50 days or 49 days or something of that sort. And these guys are still crying. They are making excuses that Errol Spence did not make. Spence didn't say he was weight drained. He didn't say that he didn't say any of this stuff. He didn't, you know, they got tested and all this stuff there. And have you ever seen anything like this, Steve?
No, I really haven't, and I don't understand this. It's not like they put a gun to anyone's head to sign this deal. But you talk about moving goalposts. I remember last year when Tennessee finally beat Alabama, and the Tennessee fans tore down the goalposts, and they basically carried them all over Knoxville, Tennessee. That right now are the Spence Cult. They are taking those goalposts and putting them all over the place, moving them 500 yards. And here's the thing that gets me about these Errol Spence fans. So many of them talk about fighter safety. We care about our fighters. Al Haymon cares about his fighters. The PBC, they don't use their fighters. I have a question, Coach, to you and your fine audience. If they really cared about Errol Spence, the human being, and it isn't about their own feelings or their own opinions, which proved to be very, very incorrect, wouldn't they advise Errol, one day you might get Terence Crawford, but you're taking the rest of the year off? If they really cared about that guy, wouldn't they actually tell him, take the rest of the year off and let's reassess the situation in 2024?
I mean, maybe they are doing it, but maybe Spence is like, man, you know what? I don't care, man. I want this rematch.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But all I'm going to say is this. A lot of these people, they don't really care about Errol Spence so much anymore. They care about their own tweets, their own statements, their own Instagram posts, all the slander of Terence Bud Crawford that they put out there liberally for 5 years. And when they were proven wrong, it's not even about the fighters now. It's now about their own opinion and their own reputations online. And now they have the unmitigated gall. This is a first in the history of boxing, Coach. I've never seen a fighter be accused of ducking a fighter that they just knocked out. Think about that. That's historic. It'll never happen again.
Listen. Trying to make sense out of nonsense. Do you know how slow and how much of a special individual that you have to be to tell me that you are ducking a guy who you knocked out? You beat this guy from pillar to post from the second round on up. You didn't have a scratch on your face. You beat this guy. He got blood coming out of both ears, blood coming out of both eyes, blood coming out of his nose, blood coming out of his mouth. But yet you are afraid and ducking that guy. Like, listen, I call these dudes Wakandas for a reason. There's a special kind of... These are special types of human beings, Steve. I don't think you ever seen anything like this. You've been watching boxing a long time. You know a lot about boxing, but I have a master's degree in Wakandaism, and I'm telling you, this right here is, you know, there's a new strand out there. gooch grease or whatever. There's a new strand out there that's going on, man. And I was thinking about getting in contact with Jim Crow Joe, the Joe Biden administration, and see can we get Dr. Fauci and see can we address this mental health pandemic that's going on, from the aerosexuals. What say you about that, Steve?
Well, here's the thing that's interesting. I thought that the meltdown of the Deontay Wilder fans after the second and third Fury fights was pretty bad. This is actually worse, and I'll tell you why it's worse. I think a lot of the Wilder fans in the deepest recesses of their mind, they kind of knew that Deontay was an exciting but flawed one-dimensional fighter. That's fine. So they lost. It's okay. The Spence Cult actually really thought Errol was the best fighter in the world. I mean, I would see these pound-for-pound lists where people had Errol Spence in like the top 2. Now, I think Errol is an elite fighter, but I always had him about 8, 9, or 10 in my pound-for-pound list. I never understood why he was that high. But again, I think you're dealing with people with dishonest agendas or just don't know what they're looking at. But this shattered their worldview of boxing. It really did. This was like finding out one day that there really was no Santa Claus. And Terence Crawford ended up being the Grinch.
It's like waking up one day and realizing, Mom, what do you mean there's no Santa?
What are you doing with the Wait a minute. So are those gifts in the closet? Well, son, sorry,
No, it's not only that. It's worse than that, Steve. You wake up one day and realize there's no Santa Claus, and then the guy who wakes you up to the reality that there's no Santa Claus is the guy who you hate with the passion. So they wake up, realize there's no Santa Claus, but then they hate the guy. Because they hate Terence Crawford with a passion. Like, these guys are committed with their hatred from their baby mama's house. But they're committed to hating this guy to the point to where you have grown men that's older than me and you that are content creators, and some of them are in the 40s and stuff like that. But they are, they wake up every day and just, I hate Terence Crawford. Take 1, bam. Okay, I hate Terence Crawford video. Take 2, bam. Okay, I hate Terence Crawford video. Take 3, bam. Like literally, these guys drop 4 or 5 videos a day, and 4.5 of the videos is different variations of I hate Terence Crawford. True.
Now, Coach, here's the funniest thing, and I know a couple people have done videos on this. Very funny. The before and after videos of the weigh-in and the fight are really interesting because an hour after the weigh-in, the narrative is, man, look how strong Errol is.
Oh.
Terence looks drained.
Yeah.
Man, this going to be a fifth. He's going to beat his ass.
Yep.
He's just too big and strong.
Yep.
2 minutes after the fight, Errol was drained. He was drained. Oh, what? Excuse me? What?
Hey, Steve. No. I want to do a survey, right? I want to do a survey because if you look at the first round, because I went around different channels when I was doing my little research, and I was listening and looking at old Twitter posts, just looking at what the people were saying in the first round, and even the second round up until the knockdown. Listen to what they were saying. They were saying he looked great. He looked phenomenal. Oh, man. It's one time in this fight where Spence had Bud in the corner, had Crawford in the corner, and Crawford was blocking, parrying shots, dipping and dodging. He had him in the corner, and Spence went to unloading, but Crawford was blocking a lot of it and stuff like that. Then he spent out the corner. They had the Holy Ghost. They was yelling. They was screaming. They was shouting. They was doing the twist and shout. And then when they didn't get the outcome that they wanted, that's where all the concocted conspiracies and stuff came at, because it was like a culture shock. I agree with you totally, Steve. This is way worse than Wilder Fury. I didn't think nothing could get worse than that. But this is how.
Man, Coach, this is like that old line from Boomerang. This is worse than when the Fat Boys broke up to these people. It truly is. And I mean, the funny thing was, I never really quite understood the hatred towards Bud Crawford, especially those who are always talking about the issue of race and racism in boxing.
Yeah.
And I'll say this again. I know people are going to hate me for it. the most racist things that are said about black fighters, or specifically Bud Crawford, it wasn't from anyone that was white or Mexican or Asian. It was always from the people that were the Errol Spence Cultists who made this more than just a boxing match.
Yep.
And those people, again, had this worldview of the sport.
Yep.
And what they thought was the reality. And like Kool Mo D once said, shatter and splatter your pipe dream.
Yep.
I mean, in the way the fight played out, when right around the 5th, 6th round, I said to myself when I'm watching that fight, Coach, this is becoming really, really one-sided.
Yeah.
And there was a realization that, Errol can't do anything here. And then when the 7th round happened with the 2 knockdowns, and then when Terence went over to Jermell Charlo and started taunting him, I mean, I'm just telling you right now, the Errol Spence crew was kind of like the cult of Jonestown. They would have drank that Kool-Aid to get it over with right then if they could. And you literally had YouTube channels shutting down after the fight. I mean, Terence literally knocked out YouTube channels. Think about that.
Hey, that is true. Hey, Steve, let me get the super chats out the way. Shout out to Marty King.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shout out to Marty King Boss for dropping that $2 super chat, man. Shout out to Shad.
Hey, okay.
For dropping that half for bam dub on your boy.
Hey, Leroy.
Super chat received.
Playtime's over, boy.
Shad said, "Coach, so Wakanda said Bud was juicing. So if they truly believe that, then you say, then wouldn't the juice even been more effective at 154?" He said, and salute to Steve on our way to 4-0. So who he talking about 4-0?
Go Miami. Go Hurricanes. Yeah, that away, Shaddy, baby. That away. Go UM. Go Hurricanes.
Hey, shout out to Inoue Usman for dropping that quarter of a dub. He said, Wakandaism, Coach. He said, there's a reason Tank wants no part of Sugar Shakur Stevenson. He said, they know what's going to happen. Oh, okay. You finna start a war right there, fam. Shout out to Mr. Nice for dropping that quarter of a dub on your boy. He said, they're acting like Bernie Mac. He said, Don't Be a Menace with Bud name. You know, Steve hit the nail right on the head, Steve, and I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. Some of the most racist, violent things that you can say to a human being, you know, a black man in America, black people, have been said by black content creators and black subscribers against other black fighters that they don't like. This is the truth. So basically, and for anyone to deny that is just really in denial. For anyone not to agree with that is just in denial. They called this guy Top Rank Toby. They said he was a slave. They said, he don't deserve nothing. I've heard content creators, and I had the video that said that, hey man, he hope Terence Crawford get raped butt naked and this and that. And I'm dead serious. This guy put this video out there on Trill Boxing Talk. The leader of the Alphabet Boards, the LDBC, which is 7 8 Sports TV. This is exactly what he said. I have the video, the actual video clip. So it's like I've never heard anything like this. So if someone else from another race would have said it, then it would have been a problem. It would have been racism. We got to call Black Lives Matter. We got to go burn the city down. But this is what black content creators and black subscribers were saying to another black fighter. All because he wasn't with a promotional company, the promotional company that they like. Not only that, but also because he wouldn't grant these guys interviews. So this is the reality of the situation. That's why I say when they come with that's why I call them Wakandas, because that's what they are. It's a figment of their imagination. It's not real. And the paradigm that you're celebrating, which is Wakanda, was created by 2 white men, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee.
Yeah.
So
Coach, can I just tell you something? Yeah. When that narrative of working for the white man was put on Terence Crawford, I used to ask people when I was doing other show like The Next Round. I even tweeted a few times. I said, for all those people that are saying that Terence Crawford is quote unquote working for the white man, I'd like to see your paycheck stub. Rub out what you're making, because that's not the point. I don't really care. But who are you working for? And I never get a reply. Why?
This is a figment of their imagination. Okay, wait a minute. You working for the white man. That's the irony. The guy who's working for the white man is picking at another guy for saying he's working for the white man. You can't make this up. Like, literally, you can't make this up.
It's always interesting because I've said, do you work for yourself or do you work for a black corporation or are you self-employed? But some of the, like even the treatment of Bomac, the memes that were made, the things that were said about his appearance. Are we going to respect individuals as people and talk to them as if they were in front of us, or are we just going to slander a guy? By the way, Bomac, I will give him credit. On that night, you look at his instructions in the corner, he was unbelievable. He was like Bill Walsh calling the West Coast offense with Joe Montana. He did an unbelievable job, where Derek Gaines, I thought, was incredibly disrespectful and dismissive of an incredibly well-rounded fighter. Okay? And Bomac did his job. And look, Bomac's a character, and he had a lot of fun with it. But it was so interesting to me. The week of the fight, I thought it was real interesting, Coach. You knew which camp thought they were going to win the fight. The Crawford camp knew. I'm just telling you, they knew.
Yeah. Because in the press conference, Brian Custer was like, if you beat Errol Spence, on July the 30th, he say, when I beat Errol Spence. If you become undisputed, he say, when I become undisputed. That's all he kept saying. Look, when I beat Spence, I just want y'all to give me my props. Like, that's what he was saying the whole time. Like, when I beat him, y'all just give me my props. And there was no, yeah, man, he's a hell of a fighter, this and that, I don't know. Like, he was sure what the outcome was going to be.
No, you know what I thought was great was at the last press conference, Terence Crawford said, look, things are getting heated between people that have nothing to do with this fight. Let's not live up to a bad stereotype, because you know what they say with two black fighters.
Yeah.
But some of you guys are getting really heated, and I just loved at the end. I just want you to know, we get active.
Yeah.
And then when he cussed out that dude that was running his mouth, he put everyone on notice. If you watch that press conference, that last fight, or even the weigh-in, there's almost like this predatory mindset of Crawford.
Yeah.
Like, he was the alpha in that whole – I'm just telling you, the whole week I got the sense, and I told people, this fight won't be as close as you think.
Yeah.
I just thought –
You said he was going to get stopped. I don't know I forgot which round you said. I think it was either
I said 10. It ended up being 9.
Yeah, I said 10 too. Yeah.
I just get the sense that Errol kind of knew, like, the day of reckoning is here. Look, Errol's a really good fighter.
Yeah.
But if you look at the way his career has been, the last couple of years, Coach, he hasn't fought enough. Neither has Terence, but there's a difference. One guy's personal habits are much more disciplined than the other. And I thought that was certainly going to be a factor in late July.
Steve, last time I had you on the show, I spoke about the calmness of Terence Crawford. He was very, very calm and poised inside of the ring. It was like mentally he was locked in. It looked like he saw every punch coming. Nothing surprised him in this fight. But I've been hearing some of the excuses I've been hearing that wasn't the same as Errol Spence. That was a clone. So the question I have for you is this. I'm going to go down the yellow brick road. So Errol Spence did not fight Terence Crawford because according to a lot of these guys that we call Errol-sexuals over here, a lot of those guys, they said that wasn't Errol Spence in the first place. That was Errol Spence's clone. So the question I have for you is, when the rematch of the fight happens, will Crawford actually fight the real Errol Spence, or is it a rematch of the clone? What is it going to be from what you learned?
Well, you know what? Then that's interesting. So for the rematch, if Eminem walks out Terence Crawford, he should come out to this song. Will the real Errol Spence please stand up? Yeah. Please stand up. I mean, was he facing an AI? Look, with the nature of that first fight, I never got the sense that 7 pounds was going to swing the fight in the other direction.
Right.
Bottom line, I really did. I really don't think that it was just the weight class. Was it a part of the dynamic that existed? Yes. Mm-hmm. However, all things being equal, the more complete, well-rounded fighter will always be Terence Crawford. Coach, there was a reason why the Errol Spence PBC side delayed this fight for 5 years, and a reason why they were willing to make Tank versus Ryan. Ryan Garcia is incredibly flawed.
Right.
Terence Crawford is almost flawless.
Right.
There's a difference. There's a reason why you make fights, and there's a reason why you delay them.
You know what? I remember I used to give Al Haymon a lot of criticism over here, but now that I work for Al, I get checks on the back end according to sources. That's what sources say. I don't know how true it is. But anyways, I get it now. I honestly get it. You know, Al Haymon was trying to protect his fighter. And then, of course, he's a businessman. He wants to make money. But he was trying to protect his fighter. And everyone who knew, like, man, you know what, man, this dude, the Crawford, I don't know if Spence really want to mess with this dude right here. But I think that they always knew. You know, Al Haymon, those guys over at the PBC, Floyd Mayweather, they always knew, listen, from a stylistic standpoint, this guy's a different animal. He's not flat-footed. He's not slow. He's not Ugas. He's not Danny Garcia. Like, we've been putting you in some good, nice setup fights, and we got a good marketing team where we hype these guys up over here to make it seem like they're bigger than what they are. We also have a cult online that follows and devours everything that we say, so we can push any narrative that we want on top of some of the control of some of the mainstream media. But I say all that to say this. Spence is, as you say, he's a good fighter. He's a really, really good fighter. But Al Haymon and them knew stylistically this fight was all wrong. And do you think there's some kind of regret there? Just your opinion, just from maybe people at the PBC.
Yeah, I think there is some regret. My theory is this: what happened on that night will keep Tank Davis from fighting Shakur Stevenson in due time, because they don't want that same thing to happen again. I really believe that they're like, you know what, we could just make money with Tank, with our PBC guys. Let's treat Shakur Stevenson like the Bermuda Triangle. That's a no-fly zone. That perception that they cannot win cross-promotional fights against other promoters, namely guys developed by Top Rank. They may never admit it. I don't think they will. I think that perception does bother them. But, Coach, in terms of the way that fight played out, I will tell you this, and I've said this publicly, and it was surprising. The last 3-4 years, when I ask people in boxing that I really trust, that have better eyes than I do, like matchmakers, managers, people in the sport that have no horse in the race, 90% of them said Steve Crawford. So while the public was kind of mixed, 50-50 maybe, the people that I really trust, that I believe have real knowledge, they all said Crawford. They had to. Al Haymon must have known this.
Yeah. Just imagine what Tom Brown was telling them. Tom Brown was like, man, this guy, you gotta like they knew, and they controlled a lot of the narratives out there. They knew. So when I think about it, I'm like, you know what, man, Al Haymon, he did a really good job. He was just trying to protect his fighter.
Yeah, and by the way, Coach, let's give Al Haymon credit in terms of protecting his guy.
Yeah.
And also squeezing the most value out of that fight, because we have to be honest, if they would have made that fight 4 years ago, it would have been a fight that you, me, and your audience would have really enjoyed.
Yeah.
But by doing it the way they did and kind of waiting around, and I know some people say it was 5 years delayed. I don't really think it's 5 years. I think it may have been a year or two in terms of like Spence's apex physically. But they got the most value out of the fight that by the time they fought, it was actually more than just a fight that boxing fans cared about. So I will give them credit for that. But the timing of the fight from a pure physical and technical standpoint favored Bud Crawford, and that played out.
Yeah, I mean, Bud is going on. He'll be 36 this month, so I know there was like Spence is like 2.5 years younger than Bud. Yada 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 yada, this and that. But the fact of the matter is, now, do you, Steve? Do you think that? To me, it's still, it doesn't feel like, Crawford is looked upon as a PBC fighter, like he doesn't get love over there like that, and he definitely
neither does he.
Yeah.
Coach, those comments he made last week calling out Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman, he made it clear, we're not on the same team.
Yeah.
We are not on the same team. He made that very clear to me.
He said, everybody know that the term call Al, everybody know what the term call Al means. Right. Call Al is duck language. When you don't when you don't want to fight a fighter, you say call Al, and then Al know what to do. Okay, I'm finna run interference for you, baby boy. Don't worry about it. I got you.
Right, and look, Terrence remembers everything.
Yeah.
Every flight, every moment of disrespect, every moment of frustration and anger, that's part of what he is.
Mm.
I'm telling you, that's one of the guys who can get motivated by the smallest little thing that me and you may shrug off. Terence probably has that as a chip on his shoulder for the next 10 years. That's part of what he is. I'm just telling you. He's an ultra-competitive guy. And now he sees guys saying, oh, well, maybe I'll fight Crawford. And he's looking at these guys like hell you are. Like hell you are.
Hey, you ain't lying about that. This man, like, bro, like, this is what these guys don't understand. All of the stuff that you say about him negatively online, what you're doing is you're making it worse for Spence. That you can tell the way he beat Spence, how focused he was. It seemed like he was releasing years of frustration, years of you ain't fought nobody, years of you top-ranked Toby, years of you a slave, years of Bob Arum is your slave master, years of all of the racially insensitive things that other black folks, black content creators have said about him. He took it out on Errol Spence. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Fam. This fight here was the first time I almost cried in the ninth round. In the ninth round, when right before Crawford had no stop Spence, right? Crawford had no caught him with a right hook, bam, knocked him off balance. And then Spence had reached with the backhand again. I think he kind of caught Crawford a little bit on the chin, or part of it was blocked. And then the same hand that he caught with, he came back over the top and hit him with the right hook. And then them body shots was hurting Errol Spence too, because I'm looking at him wincing from the body shots. And then it was at that point, there's a picture out there where Spence was backing up. He got Bambi legs, like he lost his balance. And, and his left leg was in the air, and his right leg was on the ground. He had blood coming out of his eyeballs, it looked like, nose, mouth, and he had a look of fear in his eyes as though he wanted to cry. And when I saw that, and they showed Crawford running towards him for the kill, and shortly after that, the referee stopped the fight. When I saw that, I literally damn near cried. Like, I had some tissue. I still got the tissue. I still got the toilet paper right here, sitting right next to him. Yeah. You know.
Coach,
yeah.
I was at a fight party of Coach JB, and there was probably about 15, 20 people. And these aren't hardcore boxing fans, except for one or two other people, and we're talking. The opinion before the fight was split. So it's a very friendly crowd. Nothing was going to happen. We're all having a good time watching other things. Halfway through the fight, especially after the first knockdown, and especially after the 7th round, people were in awe of what they were witnessing. And even people that were going for Spence were telling me, Steve, we had no idea Terence Crawford was this guy. I mean, it really was that they were literally in awe, going, "Oh my God!" And I'm like, I don't like. Hey, I said, "Hey, look, I think Crawford's really good, and look, so is Spence, but Crawford is one of those guys I can honestly say now, in all my years covering boxing, that he's in that special class. I don't know if it's a top 10 or whatever, but when I think of the great fighters I've been able to see, Mayweather, Pacquiao, Hopkins, Trinidad, Marquez, Barrera, Winky Wright, guys of that level that I say, wow, man. Or Mark Too Sharp Johnson, certainly one of my favorite guys.
Yeah, Too Sharp. Yeah,
I say to myself, you're in that. Oh, Too Sharp was unbelievable. Yeah. And those are the guys that I say, like, you know what? You guys are behind the velvet rope. You guys are in a special, special club. Crawford's in that club. Crawford is in that club. There's no doubt about it.
Shout out to Mr. Nice for dropping that quarter of a dub.
Hey, okay.
He said, Coach, they borrowed their baby mama Netflix and watch Who Cloned Tyrone to say Errol was a clone. Back to the clone. So I don't know what the problem is. If Errol Spence really didn't fight Terence Crawford and that was a clone, then what's the issue? We shouldn't be talking about, yeah, man, well, it need to be at 54. I'm like, dude, these were the same guys who said that what Spence was going to do A, B, C, and D to Crawford. And then when it didn't happen, they moved the goalposts. And then moved the goalposts again. And they moved the goalposts again. Like, I think these guys are incapable of being honest, genuine, fair, and about anything. And when you spoke about this, I think because these guys suffer, they have a victim mentality, and they participate in the victim Olympics, that the victim will always find a way to become a victim in any situation, even when there's nothing that has physically happened to them. And these guys took it personal. Errol Spence is the one that's taking punches. Errol Spence is the one that's cashing checks, going to the bank. These guys, these black content creators and their subscribers took it personal. And, you know, they wouldn't pay bets. They betted people wouldn't pay bets. They said all these racially insensitive things about people who look like them. You know, they threaten people online. You know, I've been a victim of that. You know, so these guys, they took it way too personal, and I'm trying to figure out why. You don't know Errol Spence personally, Steve. You don't know Terence Crawford personally, Steve. So why are you taking this so personal? And to this day, I don't get it. I really don't get it. What say you, Steve?
Yeah, and they made this such a battle from a cultural standpoint.
Yeah.
And my view was, look, I don't even think here's the thing. Most fighters care about their own career. They don't even care who's in their own promotional stable. They really don't. I do think that Errol got caught up in a little bit of it. People gassing him up, much like Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
And it makes the loss worse. At the end of the day, it's just two men fighting, trying to make a living. I'm just telling you, if this fight, just judging by the way some of these people have reacted, if this fight was close, these very same people would be talking about a robbery.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these people do not have an honest bone in their body.
No, they don't.
And they live vicariously through these fighters, which I've never really quite understood as grown adults, getting that much involved into it. But that night had to be one of the worst nights for them. I just thought it was incredible that a lot of these guys just absolutely almost stopped covering boxing because of one fight. That shows me right there that they were never really boxing fans to begin with.
Steve, you hit the nail right on the head. They was never really boxing fans, because to be a fan of the sport of boxing, you know, like you never have a overly emotional attachment for any particular fighter, because you want to be fair by how you treat boxing. You want to be fair. If Canelo were to retire today, if Chris Crawford were to retire today, or Deontay Wilder or Spence, guess what? The sport would still be here. There'll be somebody else that come up. It's always have been like that since before Jack Johnson and after, and up until this point. So, and that's what I say. I call these guys social media fans, boxing fans, because they are not boxing fans. These guys have racial agendas. You know, they have other agendas that have nothing to do with the sport of boxing. And the crazy part about it, Steve, is this. These are grown-ass men. These men are in their 40s. I'm 49. These dudes are in their late 40s. They're in their 50s. Some of them are even in their 60s. And I'm like, dude, you too old to be hating. Like, at that age, why are you still hating on a guy that's younger than you, that's a multimillionaire? You don't know neither one of these guys personally. What is it about? I connect more with Spence. Okay, that's fine. You can connect more with him, but you don't know him. He wouldn't piss on you if you was on fire. So, I mean, okay, you connect with him, fine. But he lost. Or so they say his clone lost. So, do you think that that Spence did the right thing by activating the rematch?
He did the prideful thing. I do wonder, you're right, Coach, the more I think about it, does he really want the rematch immediately? I want to make this clear. I'm not against rematches. The rematches are an important, vital part of boxing history. Without them, the boxing history wouldn't be nearly as good, because there'd be no rivalry. Like Ali Frazier, Barrero Morales, Gaddy Ward, Holyfield Bowe. We can go down the line. What I don't like, Coach, and I've written about this, I don't like the contracted immediate rematch. Rematches should be dictated by public demand, not just a contract. Because in an era where fighters only fight once or twice a year to begin with, I don't want to see Transformers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 every single time. Let's mix it up. Let's kind of like shuffle the deck. And when a fight is so one-sided, Coach, I don't know what logic it really makes to do it right back again. I mean, if you look at the way Errol Spence looked and the way his face swelled up and was bruised up, I said to myself, that guy needs a long rest. The last thing he needs to do is to go right back into the ring with the guy who did that to him. And that's my biggest takeaway from this is that if I was the commissioner of boxing, I would flat out say no more immediate rematches. That cannot be in a fight contract.
I guess it's the equivalent of Gotti saying he wanted a rematch with Floyd Mayweather. And you remember how bad Gotti...
Right.
Bro, listen, that was the time, you know what, man? I'm trying to think, did I cry that fight? You know, I'm not the most sensitive, I'm not the sensitive guy, but I honestly felt sorry for Gotti. I'm like, man, he beat... Like, why they won't just stop the fight? Like, Floyd Mayweather, I don't think Floyd Mayweather even got hit that fight. Like, the beating that he put on Arturo Gotti was, like, he should have went to jail for that. That should have been a crime.
And Coach, everyone ripped Stephen A. Smith. And again, you can say what you want. Stephen A. said some things I don't agree with. Guess what? That's life. We're not going to always agree. But Stephen A. Smith said, I actually think Errol Spence should retire from boxing. You know what, Coach? I don't think that's the craziest thing that a guy that's been through everything Errol has been through the last 4 or 5 years of his life and just what he just went through in that ring in a dangerous sport, who may have made 8 figures, right? Mm-hmm. Well, do we care about these guys or not? These guys always talk about we care about them more than – no, they don't. They're the biggest frauds. Yeah. They care more about what they have said and what they have boasted and then being right than the actual fighter. They're the biggest hypocrites in this space.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are, you know, they have a master's degree when it comes to practicing double standards, but I think you hit the target. These guys are not boxing fans. They're a special group of people. They really have nothing to do with boxing. These guys like to bitch, moan, whine, and complain every day. It's like some of these guys seem like they just have miserable lives. And for the life of me, how does a guy that's in his 40s, 50s, 60s, like what is it about you that's not going right in your life to where you dedicate so much time and vitriol to hate one guy? And then these same guys will turn around and holler Black Lives Matter. So in one breath, but then in the next breath, you know, they're tearing down the very black lives that they say that matter. So, you know, I understand these guys very well because I used to be them. That's why I have a master's degree in dealing with these Wakandans, because I used to be a Wakanda myself. So I do get it and understand. I just think, Steve, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to let you talk. Errol Spence and Crawford, they're going to run it back. They're going to make a lot of money. Was there any other fights out there? Let's say, I know you say maybe Spence should retire. Me personally, I do want to see the rematch because I want to clear all doubt myself. But do you think that okay, they got a rematch. I'm hearing it's supposed to be in December or whatever. Do you think that financially that was the best fight for Spence to make because there wasn't another big money fight out there that he can make outside of Crawford?
Coach, my belief is that there has to be built-in financial guarantees for the rematch. And I get the sense that the guarantees for that rematch, even if it's not as much as it was for the fight that took place in late July, based on what happened, is probably a greater guarantee than Spence could get for a comeback fight against, let's say, Brian Castano. Mm-hmm. And that's another tough fight because that's a big, rugged, tough guy that's going to be right in his chest. So from a purely financial standpoint, that Crawford fight, the second time around, may still be the most valuable piece out there for him. So now the question becomes, let's say they throw a little bit more money the way of Crawford, does he move up to 54 and say, okay, if I'm going to fight somebody at 68, the winner of Charlo Canelo on September 30th, maybe I should go up to 54. Me and Mario discussed that yesterday on the 3 knockdown rule. But yes, I would say my assumption is, Coach, that the rematch for Errol Spence is probably the most lucrative offer on the table for his next fight, which is maybe a large part of why he wants to do it.
So, yeah, that right there. So let me ask you this. What if, what is it, Kai? Okay. All right. That's good. That's my son, man. He learned how to tie. He finally learned how to tie his shoes.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Damn, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah. From a financial standpoint, they're going to get that fight out of the way. They're going to make some good money. What about the net worth? What have you been hearing about the networks and just people around the PBC, have you heard, are people thrilled about this fight from a financial standpoint? Do they think it's going to do good? What say you about that?
Well, I would have to think logically based on the lopsided nature of the first fight. I don't think there's quite the interest that there was like this past summer. I do wonder what are the actual guarantees, because look, the first fight did over 600,000, which I thought was a really good number. The problem is if you're guaranteeing right around the same amount and you get closer to 500,000, because let's say there's like depressed interest, now you're wondering, can we even make any money out of this? So this was the worst case scenario for PBC in a sense that you know that they wanted Errol Spence to win, and now they have to do the rematch again maybe, and it may not do as well. And guess what? I still suspect Crawford's going to win that rematch.
Yeah, he definitely win that rematch.
So I don't know, you know, it'll be interesting. I would love to know what are the guarantees for the rematch as compared to the first fight.
This is another thing, Steve. If it don't do well, the rematch, which a lot of people predicting that it won't, then and if Spence were to lose the second fight, or his clone, because we don't know if that's going to be Spence, because it might be his clone. So if Errol Spence's clone were to lose to Crawford again, where does that leave Errol Spence? 2 back-to-back losses from a guy who was top-ranked Toby, a guy who ain't fought nobody, a guy who was on the wrong side of the street, a guy who should take 80-20, you know, take whatever we give you. You know, that guy who's been being devalued by that company. What does that leave Errol Spence? 2 back-to-back losses to the wrong side of the street, Terence Crawford.
That's a very good question. I'm just telling you, he is much closer to the ending of his career than the prime of his career. For all those people, I have a question. For all those people who believe that the weight made a difference and it's going to change the outlook of the rematch, okay. But I do have a question. Can you undo the damage that occurred in the first fight? Does 7 pounds just magically just make all that corrosion and the devastation to his body up and down? Does it erase it? I don't think it does. Every fighter comes out of a fight different than when they come in. That's the natural aging process. So all those people, they need to answer that question. Do you really believe that you can undo the physical toll that was taken from Errol Spence on the night of July 29th?
Steve, where does it, from a psychological standpoint, what does it leave him? You know, you're going back into this rematch. You got to do the press conference all over again. You're going to have Derek James. And this guy who you trashed, this guy who you said ain't fought nobody, this guy who you said was overrated, this guy that you was very, very dismissive of, now you back face-to-face with this guy. The press conference. Brian Custer probably be talking a little bit different now. The cat has been laid out the bag, and they know, man, this guy being very calm and poised. We know what that means because he's a quiet assassin. Damn. So psychologically, where does that leave you? You're like, damn, you get what I'm saying?
Look, psychologically, he's a different guy. I think it's only a natural human emotion. Here's the other thing from a technical standpoint. Let's just go pure boxing. The one thing that was very, very noticeable to me is that the harder Spence tried to be the aggressor and come forward, the more he got tore up.
Well, he got tore up, yeah.
It was like he got put through the wood chipper. And you could see it where he kept trying to be even more aggressive.
Yeah.
More aggression. Try to be stronger. Try to go through Crawford. He kept getting hit worse and worse.
Yeah.
And that, to me, and here's the problem. I don't believe Errol Spence has the capability to suddenly become Pernell Whitaker, because I said it before the fight. Errol Spence is a southpaw, but he's not a southpaw Sweet Pea Whitaker. There's a difference.
There's a difference, yeah.
By southpaw standards, Errol Spence is actually very easy to touch.
This is crazy, man, because my thing is, and you hit the nail right on the head. Okay, stylistically, what is he going to do different? You say, okay, well, why they won't fight him at 154 then? It's going to be a better fight. How? You don't stylistically, he's still gonna be slow. He's still gonna have slow feet. Still gonna have slow hands. He's still gonna be He's still gonna reach with the backhand. He's still gonna try to come in there with his shoulder when he get close to try to muscle you in the shoulder, put his head in your chest and beat to the body like he did Ugas and Danny Garcia. Like that style doesn't work. And I said this on the show prior to, and if Derrick James would have did his homework, he would have knew that. He would have had a different game plan. Because I say, listen, man, this guy Crawford has fought big guys before. He fought the Victor Postals. He fought the Jeff Horns. He fought the Brooks, the Kell Brookses. You know, he fought the Felix Diaz's, the Hank Lundys. These guys was bigger. Everybody who tried to be very ultra aggressive towards him, he stopped them. Like, if you know anything about Terence Crawford, the worst thing you can do is try to play bully ball with him. I'm going to come in there aggressive, and I'm going to impose my physical will on you. Everybody who tried that shit got knocked out. Like, literally, you can't do that with this guy. But if Derrick James would have did his homework and not been so dismissive, they would have came with a different game plan.
Coach, here's the other thing that to me is really something that's being overlooked. People talk about being weight drained. Mm-hmm. Do I believe making 147 was tough for Errol Spence? Yes, I do, because a lot of fighters nowadays try to game the system. Mm-hmm. But here's a fact. Many of these weigh-ins now are not just 24 hours before the fight. They're actually 30 hours. Because think about it. Most of these guys get into the ring about 8:15. But sometimes they weigh in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Sometimes they even weigh in at 9 o'clock in the morning that Friday. So literally, you're getting 30-plus hours to rehydrate. Let's not make it sound like Errol Spence had to weigh in the morning of the fight and had 6 hours to put on weight. Yeah, he had plenty of time to rehydrate.
No, but
that fight was not right.
No. Go ahead, Steve. Sorry about that.
So my view is, if the fight was close, let's say we had a fight a couple of months ago where it was very, very tight. Both guys have really good moments. And Crawford is a little bit stronger and down the stretch. 7-5. He ekes it out. Now you can make an argument. Yeah, but you know what? Spence was weight drained and he didn't have the gas tank. He didn't have the finishing kick. I could buy that. But in a fight that is so one-sided, I think that goes beyond weight, Coach.
Not only that, but to piggyback off your argument, Terence Crawford said 147 was a hard weight cut for him too.
Yes, it was.
That's what he said. So, and then not only that, the day of the weigh-in, you had all types of YouTube channels putting out reports saying that, yeah, man, Terence Crawford missed weight. They said Spence made the weight. They said Spence made the weight good. He hit 147 on the head. They were putting out videos. Yeah, Terence Crawford, he missed weight. He had to weigh 2 and 3 times in order to make weight. So this what they were saying prior, after the weigh-in. Spence was Crawford looked like he was weight drained. You know, when they was face to face, you saw how sunken in his cheeks looked. Crawford looked weight drained. This what these guys were saying. And then as soon as they didn't get the outcome that they wanted, they flipped the script. This is the problem, Steve. Like, that's why I say I had to go back and listen to everything that was said. Look at all of the news clippings and the tweets and stuff like that. Prior, Terence Crawford's face looked like Skeletor. Look how skinny he is. Crawford weight drained. He quiet over there now. And they was hyping up and how big Spence looked. And then in the weigh-in, they said that, yeah, man, Spence made weight on time. Crawford had to weigh in 2 and 3 times. So, like, literally, and then when Spence gets it, so the guy that was weight drained, which was Crawford, that's what. Sorry about that. The guy that was weight drained, which was Crawford, right before the fight, you know what I mean? And then now they didn't get the outcome that they was looking for, Steve. Now it's a problem. And I'm like, man, these guys are disingenuous. Listen, the simple fact is this here. You guys didn't get the outcome you were looking for, and so now you're lying, making excuses, and you're still putting out hit pieces, trying to dismercify this guy's name. The goal is still the same, Steve. We hate this guy no matter what, do everything in our power to tear this man down. And that's just what it is.
And I want to ask the Spence fans this, and I'm being dead serious. Even at 154, in what area of boxing is your guy better than Bud? From a tactical standpoint, technical standpoint, speed, quickness, toughness, the ability to go from offense to defense, counter punching, the ability to slip punches, the ability to transition, the ability to switch it. What area of boxing is Spence now better if you just automatically make that fight at junior middleweight?
He the bigger man. He big. He big.
Right. I mean, so,
That's what it was saying.
so that's my point. It's like size alone has never won a fight. Is size a factor? Yes. But size alone has never won a fight. You've got to have some skill to be able to exploit any type of size or reach advantage.
Man, Steve, look here, man. Let me tell you something. When like these guys are in utter shock to this day. And I think the thing that's more disappointing to me, because me being I call myself a little elder now, I'm 49, but I'm like, it's like, when I see old crusties, I call them old crusties, when I see these old crusties, like, dude, like, you too old to be hating, dog. Like, my man, that's how you know these guys don't know nothing about boxing. They haven't watched it, and they have different agendas. They have different agendas in the name of boxing. They try to talk like they some kind of social justice warriors in the name of boxing, but in actuality, these guys are participating in the Victim Olympics. The truth does not sit well with them. Anything that doesn't fit their narrative, we have to make up all kind of lies and stuff in order for us to handle the shock and the awe that comes from the disappointment of believing this bullshit and putting out these false narratives. I honestly believe, Steve, that these guys have lied so much over the years, and Errol Spence been hearing this stuff for so long over the years, that they literally start believing their lies.
No, they do. It is an alternate reality that they live in, and they've been in these echo chambers of various chat rooms or spaces, and I'm just telling you, it was amazing, the reaction. I've never seen such a visceral reaction to a fight like on the night of July 29th. And it all kind of started, though, and that was an interesting week, because when Inoue wrecked Fulton, because a lot of people just thought, okay, Fulton's going to go out there and be the better boxer. And right then, you got the foreshadowing, like, uh-oh, the worst week of your lives just began, because that little Japanese guy outboxed Fulton, then he punched him out. Coach, I'm not going to lie to you. I had that sense like, that's the other shoe dropping. The other Air Jordan is going to drop hard. I could just sense it, because I truly believe that Bud and the Monster are the two best fighters. I would go Bud and then Inoue, 1A, 1B. I think those two are the top of the class, and they showed their class in late July. Like, man, these guys are special. These guys are truly special fighters. But based on the overall work and longevity, I still put Crawford out of respect, because he's been around longer. But these guys did not want to believe that boxing is just a sport. It's between two men who are professionals, who work the whole craft. I guarantee you, most young boxers, when they get into the sport, they don't think about, I got to represent my people. No, they don't. They're individuals that want to make a living, and this is what they love to do, and they work hard at it. I've never actually met a fighter that said, yeah, I want to do this for my people. No, they want to do it for their bank account, because they'd rather do this than have a real job. That's the reality. And they live in this fantasy world that simply does not exist.
Yeah, Steve, I totally agree with that. I think, it's the fans. I think a lot of these guys, they like to do something that I call projection. They like to project onto others what they want, what they are, what they want. So, because this guy's a fighter, yeah, we're going to project. He's our leader. You get what I'm saying? And I'm like, no, this dude's just a boxer. He's doing what he has to do to take care of himself and his family. That's it. He's not Malcolm. He's not Martin Luther King. He's not, he's not Maya Angelou. He's not any of these guys. No, he's just a fighter. And I think a lot of these fans, they have so much that they try to project on the others. And I think that's what it is, Steve. Let me get this super chat out the way, Steve. I'm going to let you have the floor. Shout out to LV.
Hey, okay.
Dropping that quarter of a dub. He say, Coach, is Spence back tattoos? He say, what'd you say, Spence back tattoos that distract aerosexuals from his horrible mechanics and head movement and footwork? Yeah, I mean, LV, and Steve broke it down like, What is this going to make you a better fighter? Because this guy has so many different flaws. And I said this, Steve, and I don't know if you agree, but I think stylistically, his style is tailor-made for Terence Crawford. What you think about that?
Well, Terence Crawford, if you're going to come straight at him in a straight line the whole time, that is like pitching fastballs to 2001 Barry Bonds. Be very careful. He will put you through the meat grinder. And Terence was so locked in. His eyes on that night, it's almost like he saw the punches coming before they were even thrown. And if you go back to the last 3-4 rounds after Bomac said, hey, he slowed down, do the catch and counter. It was almost like it was choreographed. That the catch and counter, I don't even think Errol understood. Terence is begging you to throw punches. He's begging you because he knew that I'm going to beat you to the punch even after you throw it first. It was a work of art what he did.
Man, it's amazing. It really is amazing. So the rematch, you don't really see much of a difference in the rematch, huh?
I mean, look, anything can happen. But again, generally, when a guy turns around a rematch, I don't recall that many fights. Maybe there have been some where it's lopsided, but I just think there's also a psychological thing. I think Crawford is such a dog. I mean, an absolute Doberman. I don't see him letting down because I think he realizes if I lose, everyone that talked all this slanderous stuff for 5 years, it'll be even worse. Mm. So I know his mind a little bit. He's gonna say, you know what, I need to thrash him even worse now.
No, you're right. It's gonna make it worse because he has that mentality and that mindset. I'm finna destroy this dude because it's bigger than Spence at this point. I'm destroying every narrative, every article, every interview, everything that was said about me. I'm going to channel that, and you can tell just from every punch he landed, they was with mean intentions. They were sharp, they were crisp. I didn't see any wide punches. He was very, very accurate that night. And there's a lot of things. Do you think Derrick James studied film for the rematch?
You mean, will he actually look at any film at all? I was actually stunned by how dismissive he was of Crawford. And look, Derrick is no better or worse a trainer than he was 3 months ago. He's a good trainer. He's got a great track record. But, you know, I don't know if he understood what they were getting into. Some of the things he said were bewildering when he said that Crawford brings nothing special to the table. I don't see any real skill. The switch hitting is not going to be an issue. And I know Derrick. I like Derrick, but he had to have understood that Crawford brings a different set of problems to the table. And you see what happens. I've seen this with a lot of trainers, Freddie Roach included. They go for years without losing a fight because they have a great stable. But let me just tell you something. It is about the fighter. The fighter makes the trainer. There are no geniuses or miracle workers in this game. Everybody is fallible. Everybody is human, and he got his comeuppance. He was humbled on that night.
Yeah. So were you surprised about Inoue and Stephen Fulton? How easy Inoue was able to pretty much destroy Stephen Fulton, right? I think it was a few days right before Crawford destroyed Spence.
Well, I had Fulton boxing a little bit better, but my official prediction was Inoue in 10. The one thing people did not understand about Inoue, and I said this on the show, Inoue's greatest talent or skill is actually his speed. He's got great technique and power, but he's actually the faster fighter than Fulton. And if you look in the first 30 to 60 seconds of that fight, when Inoue was hitting him with that jab to the stomach, and he was actually quicker off the trigger, off that jab, Fulton had this look like, oh boy, this guy's actually faster than I thought, and he can box.
Yeah.
And you saw who had control of the jab on that front side. It was always going to be Inoue could have won that fight 12-0. And then he eventually set up that right hand over the top. Inoue is probably he's actually, I tell you one thing that's impressive about Inoue, he's actually gotten better technically. You go back to that first Donaire fight where he got banged up. He was not very good transitioning from offense to defense, which is why he got caught. He's actually a much more slippery fighter defensively. He's actually slipping and rolling now, which he wasn't doing. So he's actually evolved his style. He's going to be a tough guy to beat for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Man, Steve, that dude, Inoue, and the crazy part about it was it's the same group of people, you know, they made it racial. Oh, man, well, this dude is a hype job from Japan. He haven't fought no slick black fighters. He don't even spar black fighters. How is he going to get ready to, how is he going to fight a black fighter and don't even have any sparring partners that are black? Like, they you know, it's the same people. It's the same people. It's the same group of people. Same bullshit. Social justice warriors. I call these dudes Wakandas. They did the same shit, made it something that it wasn't, know nothing about the sport, because you have to be a fool, a damn fool, a goddamn fool to sit back and say that because a guy is from Japan, you know, you never seen him fight before, but he's a hype job and he hasn't fought a slick black fighter before, and you know, and I'm like, dude, like, no, this dude Inoue is good.
Coach, the best thing Inoue did was about a year ago. He actually spent 2 weeks in America sparring American fighters. I know people that were at that gym, including my good friend Doug Fisher, and I've talked to other trainers that brought fighters in. So he fought all sorts of different styles. Okay, so I thought that was a little bit overblown. And Rudy Hernandez, the brother of the late great Chiquinito Hernandez, has been telling me for 5 years, Steve, that's the best fighter in the game. And I said, really? He said, Steve, I've never seen a combination of speed, power, and technique to that level. And he's only getting better. And he kept telling me, Rudy said, Steve, that's going to be a 7-8 round fight. He goes, all these people that think Fulton's going to outbox him, he said, Steve, it's an easy fight. Now, I was actually surprised that it came true to that degree. But watch the first round again, Coach. When Inoue is establishing that jab, a real quick jab and a hard jab to the body, I'm telling you, Fulton was like, I'm in trouble here, because he thought he was going to be the slicker, faster fighter, and he wasn't.
That was to me that was very, very impressive, because he ran through Fulton, and I saw a look in Fulton's eyes like of shock and surprise. I think once he felt the power, once he felt Inoue's power, his whole, whatever game plan he had changed. Once he got hit and he felt how strong this guy was, how hard he hits, his whole game, whatever game plan he had changed, and he couldn't even get away from him. Inoue's ability to be able to cut that ring off was like amazing. Because I look at Cool Boy as a slick black fighter, but I'm like, it didn't help him that day. Like that day, all the slickness in the world couldn't help him. And
you know what's funny, Coach? You know how I know Inoue's a good fighter?
Wow.
All the dummies now want him to fight Tank Davis.
Want him to move up.
That's the greatest compliment you could pay a guy, is when those dummies start making unrealistic demands of fighters like him. Because those Tank fans would never want him to fight Terence Crawford at 47.
No. But this is the thing, right? Those guys, they hate. They were so mad because they were so mad at the outcome. Okay, we wanted to move up to fight Tank. He got to fight Tank now. And that's moving the goalpost again. Okay, Cool Boy didn't win. Facts, we know this, right? But now let's move the goalpost and up the ante to, okay, now he got to fight Tank. No, he ain't got to fight Isak Cruz. He don't have to fight Roland Romero. Yeah. We want to put him in there with Tank. You know what I'm saying? So, come on.
And pretty soon they're going to say he needs to fight Alexander Usyk. I mean, just, it's ridiculous. And the guy's made it clear he wants to win all the belts in that weight class at 22. So he's going to fight the Filipino. I think that's going to be a relatively easy fight.
Yeah.
The question I have for Inoue is, if he moves up to 26, how does he do against the Bernardo Lopez or Robeisy Ramirez?
Yeah.
Because I wonder, what is his threshold in terms of where is his cap? Where's his ceiling as a weight class?
Do you think he need? He's at what, super bantamweight now, right?
Yeah, he's at 122, and I think maybe they're going to try to dip their toe into 26. Tim Bradley asked me, our good friend Tim.
Yeah.
He said, Steve, what do you think his limit is? I said, maybe 22, 26. Tim seems to think it could be 26 or 30.
I don't know.
That remains to be seen.
I don't know about 30, man. Maybe.
Yeah, 30's big. I mean, because remember, he started at 108, Coach.
Right.
That's a big percentage of his body weight.
Yeah, so I mean, I expect him to become undisputed this year. So, so many people becoming undisputed. Do you think he should just stay in that weight division and just dominate, fight all his mentors, at least get, you know what I mean, have some fights in that weight division to get more acclimated with the weight?
Yes, look, Louis Neri would be a good fight. There's guys at 22 that are actually still pretty good fighters. Outside of the belt holder at 22, there's still some fights, and I believe Inoue, I saw something on Twitter. He said, "Look, there's 3 or 4 other fights I would like." Like Louis Neri would be an excellent fight. And there's a lot of controversy with the stuff that happened in Japan where Neri is literally banned from the land of the rising sun because he missed weight. But I spoke to Bob Arum a few months ago, and he flat out said, he goes, "Look, next year, Inoue will fight in America at least once." And I don't care. I've actually seen him in person before. I'd actually like to see him one more time because I think in America he would draw very, very well because he's become more than just a curiosity to the hardcore boxing fans.
Yeah, you're gonna have to match him up with the right guy. Like a lot of, I think people are starting to hear his name now, especially after he defeated Cool Boy, and he's had several fights in America before. He had maybe two in the past, 2 or 3, something like that.
Yeah, but remember, Floyd Mayweather needs him to fight in America because Floyd's the commissioner now. Floyd gets to call the shots. And I'm like, hey, genius, he's already fought here. What are you talking about? He did this long before you wanted him to.
Floyd like, yeah, I mean, he anyway, hell of a fighter. But I want to see him fight in America. He's fighting over there in Japan.
Yeah.
That's cool, but he needs to come over here in America and let us see if he can still, will he still have those same skills? So apparently his skills, if he come to America, we want to know, will he be able to bring the land of the rising sun skills with him over here to the country and have that same success?
Right. So, Floyd is the commissioner. Everyone has to do what Floyd wants. Remember, that's the important thing. What does Floyd want? Because that's the important thing.
Hey, Steve, man, listen, man, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I know I had you on here for about an hour now. Let everybody know about the 3 Knockdown Rule podcast, who you have coming up. And let everybody know do you plan on I know you was with what's the name of the company, man? Yeah, what you guys was with? Triller. I know it's with Triller. I know he's with Triller now.
Which was a killer.
Yeah, you and Mario doing your own thing. Let everybody know.
Yeah, we're doing our own thing. Look, we do have a deal with UFC Fight Pass, but the show eventually comes out on all the podcast platforms. Like Apple and, Spotify and all that. And also, there's a video version of the show that eventually comes out on our own YouTube channel, 3 Knockdown Rule, every week. And we just filmed yesterday or this week's show last night. It should be out by tomorrow morning, talking about the fights that happened last week. William Zepeda, Venado Lopez. We also previewed Joe Joyce against Zhang Zhilei in that rematch. And just doing what we do. It's a weekly show, and we have a good time with it. Before you go, let me ask you about William Zepeda. What do you think about him in this week's I went live for that fight. We did a fight party. What do you think about them? How does he, in your opinion, match up with the rest of the fighters in the lightweight division? Let me just say this. At 135, you take out Shakur Stevenson and probably Tank Davis because of his power. Mm-hmm. Everyone else at 135, I think Zepeda would be either even money or a slight favorite or more. I think he's a real, real problem because of his activity and the fact he actually has some technical acumen with it, and he hits hard. It's not just feather-fisted punches. Shakur's the one guy I think everyone treats like he's invisible. They don't want to fight him. They're turning down career-high paydays. I don't want to mention any names, Frank Martin, but and other people like Tank Davis want to act like he doesn't exist. But everyone else at 135, I believe that William Zepeda would absolutely give a hell of a night too. All right, man. Well, Steve, man, let everyone know how to get in contact with you on Twitter. Who may want to, they might want to see some gun emojis or tell you to drop the addies. How can they? Yeah, you can tweet me at SteveKim323, and I'm on Instagram at Steve Orale, OARLA L.E. Kim. And then also the 3 knockdown rule. Make sure you get that, subscribe, like, do all that other great stuff. And, of course, keep listening to True Media Today USA Boxing.
Man, I'm out of here, bro. Let's go.